In the previous videos, I've shown how I've cut down the old cherry tree to make a wildlife-friendly log pile, and I've also shown how I removed the old raised beds and rebuilt some new ones. And although I really enjoy being able to make big changes like this to the garden, the bit which I really enjoy is the day-to-day of growing food. So for me, this is where it gets really exciting. This is where we start looking at food production. So even though I've been busy doing these big jobs, I have actually been doing a little bit of growing on the side, just when I found the time. I started growing some tomatoes from seed before we moved into our new home. By the time we moved, they were ready to put up, and only last week I had to stake them to stop them collapsing under their own weight. We haven't got a greenhouse yet, so they're growing in our utility room. This room doesn't get very much direct sunlight, so I think the plants have become a bit leggy, but we'll see how well they do as the season progresses. I've also grown some pea and radish microgreen salads. Microgreens are a really good way to easily produce your own salad at home. They don't take up very much space and can provide a healthy salad really quickly. I find that radish take about a week from seed sowing to harvest, and pea shoots take closer to 2 weeks. The salad station is quite disorganised at the moment, but now we're getting more settled into our new home, I'm really looking forward to coming up with a plan to ensure we make the most of the space that we have and get a continuous supply of salads at the same time. I've also been sowing a few vegetables ready for planting out in our new beds. This included some dwarf French bean seeds that I saved last year. I used a lollipop stick to make a hole in the compost and then drop the seeds straight in. I let them germinate on the salad station because the temperature in there is consistently around 17 to 22 degrees Celsius, which is perfect for germinating most vegetable seeds. However, I find that bean seeds stretch quite a lot under my low power grow lights. They're also very phototrophic and lean towards the light source. For this reason, I put them out in the garden as soon as all the seeds are germinated. They'll stay in their trays for a few weeks until I'm able to plant them. I grew some sweet corn in a similar way, except I pre-germinated them in a Tupperware on a damp piece of kitchen roll. Once the seeds had a short root and shoot, I put them into their individual modules and kept them slightly moist by misting them frequently until they were established. I started doing sweet corn like this because mine kept rotting before or soon after germination. By the beginning of May, I was ready to start sowing seeds and transplanting seedlings directly into the soil. I generally try to avoid digging the soil whenever possible, but the ground in our new beds was compacted and slightly uneven, so I accepted that for the first year I would need to do a little digging. I started by going over the whole of each bed with a garden fork. I didn't turn the soil over, I just pushed the fork in as far as it would go and then pulled back a little bit. This loosened the compacted soil, making it easier to level the surface. It will also break up any compaction pans that lay beneath the surface, such as where the previous turf paths had been. I then trod the soil with my heels. This consolidates the soil without causing surface compaction. It also helps to level the soil surface. Finally, I gave the soil a quick rake and removed any coarse surface debris. The first transplants to go in were these onions which I sowed back in March. Planting is quite straightforward. You need to carefully break apart their root system and use a trowel to plant them. I like to make a furrow so that any irrigation or rainfall is channeled straight towards the young roots. I water everything straight after planting to get it off to a strong start. Seed potatoes are even easier. First of all, place them on the soil surface at their correct spacing, and then plant them around 6 inches deep. First earlies are planted closer to the main crop, and second earlies are partway between. I don't really like growing potatoes in the ground because harvesting them causes a lot of soil disturbance. I'm also growing some in pots this year, which also has its own problems. I'm not entirely sure how I want to produce potatoes in the future, but for now I'm happy just to be experimenting. Potatoes are such a valuable crop, so I think it's really important to work out a sustainable way of producing them. Apart from one variety, which I bought a bag of for £2 to save them from getting binned, all of the potatoes that I planted this year are ones that I saved seed from for the last 3 years. I'll do a video on how to save your own seed potatoes in the future. Next, it was time to plant the dwarf French beans that I sowed earlier. These seedlings didn't grow as well as I'd hoped, and I think it's mainly because I picked the wrong compost by mistake. I meant to pick up the Melcourt multi-purpose, which is an excellent quality potting compost, but accidentally picked up one of their other composts which has green waste mixed in with it. I find that even small amounts of green waste, when blended with a potting compost, seriously affects the air-water balance of the growing medium. Still, I planted the beans, and I think that they'll grow better now they're in the soil. I also sowed a few seeds directly into the ground. I start by making a furrow across the width of the bed. I then sow the seed into the furrow and cover the seed with soil. Small seed, like this carrot seed here, needs to be sown very shallowly, but bigger seed, like these peas, need a deeper furrow. If in doubt, you can just read the instructions on the back of the seed packet. In one bed, I sowed entirely cover crops. I'll transplant some of the taller growing plants, such as sweet corn and broccoli, directly into this bed amongst the cover crops when they're big enough to be planted. The cover crop is a mixture of seeds, some of which I bought last year and some of which I saved from previous crops. It included 2 cereals, that's wheat and oats, some legumes including clover and trefoil, as well as some phacelia. I also added some sunflowers and some radish that I originally bought as microgreen seeds. I also sowed some white clover amongst the vegetable seeds and transplants. I chose white clover because it stays quite low to the ground, and I'm hoping it won't outcompete the vegetables. Since I made the new beds, a local cat has been using them as a litter tray. To stop him from digging amongst our newly planted crops, I decided to cover the surface with twigs from our old cherry tree until they're a bit more established. I also used the cherry wood as pea sticks to support the peas once they've germinated. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'd much rather have got sowing things a lot earlier because the soil's really dry and it's going to take a lot of watering to get the moisture back into the soil because the soil hasn't really got any structure and it's not holding on to moisture. And this sort of fluctuation, getting wet from watering and then dry from the sun throughout the day, is not really a very good environment for seed germination. So I guess we'll just see how it goes.